Alright, so pre-calculus 30, this is section 4.4. We're talking about number 7, and the question is about D, so let's take a look at 7D. It says solve for theta in the specified domain. So the specified domain is from negative 180 to positive 180, and if we're looking at the graph here, if this is 0, negative 180 is back over here, and we're going to come around to 0, and then go to positive 180. So that's the domain we're talking about. And let's just rewrite this here. I'm going to rewrite this. Secant squared theta minus 2 secant theta minus 3 equals 0. That's a 0, not a theta. So in this case, what we have is that we have a quadratic. We have a quadratic form. I don't know if you noticed that. So we actually have something like, w squared minus 2w minus 3. And then this is a quadratic we can factor. Should be able to factor this one pretty easy. W and W, and then we have, let's do a negative 3 there and a plus 1 there. And that should, when we expand that out, should give us this. And if we resubstitute, now what we have is we have secant, because look at W was secant theta, right? W was secant. So we have secant theta plus 1 times secant theta minus 3. So this is secant theta equals negative 1. That's the 0 part, right? That's what makes this 0 if secant theta was equal to negative 1. And then over here we have secant theta equals 3. Okay? So what do we do with that? Well, we can't plug that into our calculator because calculators don't do secant and cosecant and cotangent. Okay? They only deal with sine, cos, and tan. So let's write that as 1 over cosine theta equals negative 1. And let's also rewrite the second part as 1 over cos theta equals 3. Of course, to get it into cos, I take the reciprocal of both sides. So that's cos theta equals negative 1. And cos theta equals 1 over 3. Right? When I flip these around, that's what I get. Okay? Going to take the reciprocal of both sides there. Okay, so cos theta equals negative 1. So it says give solutions as exact values where possible. Otherwise, give approximate values. So the exact values come from the unit circle, right? So here's a copy of the unit circle right here that I have, if you can see that. And you know what? Let me just move that over. Actually, I'll move that up into our a little closer into our screen here. Come on now. Okay. All right. Okay, so if we just take a look at this unit circle then what we'll see here is that cos equals negative 1. Well, cos equals negative 1 here at pi, so that would be at negative 180 and at positive 180. Now look closely at the domain here. You see this? There's a closed bracket at negative 180. So that means that the domain, or the specified domain, includes negative 180, but it does not include positive 180 because it's a round bracket. So that's something you want to pay attention to. So it looks like theta here, where is it negative 1? Well, it's at 180 or negative 180, and negative 180 is the only one that's included here. So we'll say theta is negative 180 according to this one. Okay. We can't include positive 180 because it's not in the domain because it's open bracket. And then for this one, 1/3, well, we don't have a 1/3 on our unit circle, do we? Don't have a 1/3 anywhere in there. So we're not going to be able to have an exact value as far as one of these numbers that are on the table, but that's no problem. We're just going to use our calculator here, and I guess we want this in radians, in degrees, right? Because this is in degrees. So let's just where's mode? Okay, so let's go down and change that to degrees, and then we're going to go second function cos of 1/3. 1 divided by 3, and we'll find out what that is. 70.53. Okay, 70.53. Now that's going to be about here, right? Okay, So would there be something in this quadrant here in the negative part, right? We have to think about that. Well, the cast rule says that the cosine is positive here and all are positive here. So in this quadrant, see, this is a positive 1/3. So cosine is actually positive in this quadrant too. So what that means is we could treat this as a reference angle. And you could say, you know what? We can go 70 degrees this way as well. So this negative 70.53 should be included there as well, looks like. Okay, so how does that look? Does that coincide with your solution? And of course we do have to change just the decimal place here because the question does say nearest thousandth. So we'll change that. So that's, instead of 5.3, it's going to be 5.29. So the thousandth is 3 decimal places. Positive 70.529 and negative 70.529. And of course this is to the thousandth, it's exact, so it's 0, 0, 0. All right, so there's 7D in section 4.4 pre-calculus 30.